I'm Abigail Williams, 32, and I just received an elegant invitation to my sister Katherine's luxury resort grand opening. Ironic, considering 3 years ago she got our entire family inheritance because I was supposedly too irresponsible to handle money. What Kate doesn't know is that I own significant shares in Coastal Hospitality Suppliers, the very company providing everything for her precious resort. The betrayal still stings when I remember how my family dismissed me. But revenge? It's a dish best served at a grand opening. Before I tell you how I pulled the rug from under my entitled sister's feet, drop a like and subscribe if you've ever been underestimated by family members. Trust me, you'll want to see how this unfolds. Growing up in Westbrook, Connecticut meant pristine neighborhoods, country club memberships, and expectations higher than our 3-story colonial home. Our father, Robert Williams, built his real estate empire from modest beginnings, turning a small agency into Williams Property Development. My mother, Eleanor, managed our social calendar with military precision, ensuring the Williams family maintained appropriate connections. From the beginning, the differences between Kate and me were apparent. Katherine Elizabeth Williams, 3 years older, perpetually perfect, and eternally favored. She emerged from the womb with a 5-year plan, I swear. By kindergarten, she organized her crayons by color spectrum and maintained a pristine desk. Her homework was completed days before deadline, her room spotless, her manners impeccable. Then there was me, Abigail Marie Williams, the family wildcard. I preferred my art supplies scattered for easy access, found inspiration at midnight, and couldn't understand why spontaneity was considered a character flaw. My parents viewed Kate's structure as responsibility and my creativity as chaos. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" became the unofficial family motto. When Kate brought home straight A's in 7th grade, my parents took her to New York for a weekend celebration. When I won first place in the regional art competition that same year, I received a distracted "that's nice, honey" as they prepared for Kate's debate tournament. Our family vacations reflected the same pattern. Kate's preference for historical museums meant endless hours examining ancient artifacts, while my requests for art galleries were deemed frivolous. If Kate wanted to wake at dawn for a nature hike, alarms were set. If I asked to stay at the beach until sunset for the perfect lighting, I was disrupting the schedule. My 16th birthday fell on a Tuesday. My parents remembered the day before, hastily purchasing a generic card and gift certificate. 2 months later, Kate's 18th birthday warranted a professionally planned party with 50 guests, a custom cake, and a pearl necklace that had belonged to our grandmother. Katherine understands the importance of tradition, my mother explained when I asked why I hadn't been offered the family jewelry. "You'd probably lose it or trade it for art supplies." Despite the constant comparisons, I developed my own identity. While Kate joined the debate team and student government, I found refuge in the art studio and creative writing club. I discovered my talent for seeing patterns and possibilities where others saw chaos, a skill that would later prove invaluable in business. The summer before my senior year, I overheard a conversation that crystallized my family dynamic. I had returned early from a friend's house and paused outside my father's home office when I heard my name. "Abigail just doesn't have the focus," my father said, his voice tinged with disappointment. "Katherine will run the family business someday. She understands responsibility, planning, structure." "Abby is just too irresponsible," my mother agreed. "Creative, yes, but business requires discipline." I stood frozen, their words cutting deeper than they could know. Not because they had hurt me, though they had, but because they had fundamentally misunderstood me. My creativity wasn't a liability, it was a different kind of asset. My spontaneity wasn't irresponsibility, it was adaptability. That night, I made a silent promise to myself. I would succeed, but on my own terms. I would build something they couldn't dismiss or diminish, and someday, they would realize that their narrow definition of responsibility had blinded them to my potential. What they saw as irresponsibility was actually my refusal to conform to their limited vision. Kate excelled within the boundaries they set. I questioned why the boundaries existed at all. In their eyes, this made her responsible and me reckless. In reality, it made her predictable and me innovative. During family dinners, Kate would detail her college preparation while my parents nodded approvingly. When asked about my plans, my answers about exploring business and art were met with concerned glances. "There's no stable future in art," my father would say. "Katherine is applying to business programs at Ivy League schools." The pattern continued through high school. Kate was valedictorian, prom queen, and student body president. I maintained good grades while working part-time at a local gallery and building a small online business selling my designs. My achievements existed in a parallel universe, acknowledged but never celebrated with the same enthusiasm as Kate's conventional success. By graduation, the die was cast. Kate was the responsible one, destined for greatness. I was the creative one, expected to struggle until I eventually admitted defeat and accepted a safe, conventional path. But they had underestimated the power of being underestimated. Their dismissal had fueled a determination they couldn't imagine. As I watched Kate receive multiple awards at graduation while I sat with the regular students, I didn't feel jealousy. I felt resolution. This wouldn't be the final chapter of our story. The narrative they had written for me, the irresponsible daughter who would never amount to much, was about to undergo a revision they never saw coming. College marked the first real divergence in our paths. Katherine attended our father's alma mater, Yale University, majoring in real estate management and business administration. Her course was plotted with precision: summer internships at our father's company, membership in the right societies, and networking events with industry leaders. I chose a different route, enrolling at Boston University with a double major in business and design. My parents' reaction was predictably lukewarm. "At least she's studying business," my father said to my mother, as if I wasn't sitting right there at the dinner table. "Though I don't understand why she needs that art degree too." "It's design, Dad," I corrected. "And the industries are increasingly connected." The blank looks I received confirmed they weren't interested in my explanation. When the tuition bill came, they paid it without complaint, but made it clear that additional expenses would be my responsibility. Meanwhile, Kate's apartment near campus, new laptop, and business wardrobe were all deemed necessary investments in her future. I found part-time work at a campus coffee shop and later at a small marketing firm that appreciated my combined business and design perspective. Every dollar I earned went toward building my knowledge and network, investing in professional software, and funding small side projects. During my sophomore year, I launched an online boutique selling custom planners and organizational tools with artistic flair. The irony wasn't lost on me. The irresponsible daughter creating tools to help others manage their lives more effectively. The business grew steadily, providing a modest income and, more importantly, practical experience in supply chains, customer service, and digital marketing. When I called home to share my small business success, Kate answered, "That's cute, Abby," she said after I explained how I'd reached 100 orders that month. "Dad just put me in charge of the Westbrook Heights development. It's a multi-million-dollar project." Her internship at our father's company had predictably evolved into a management position. At 22, she was overseeing projects that seasoned professionals would envy, her path smoothed by our father's influence. During holiday breaks, family dinners became showcases for Kate's professional progress. She'd discuss property values and investment strategies while our parents beamed with pride. When they asked about my studies, my answers about digital marketing trends or supply chain innovations were met with polite nods before conversation swiftly returned to Kate's achievements. In my junior year, I met Professor Harrison, who became the mentor my parents never were. A former executive who had transitioned to academia, he recognized something in my approach that others missed. You see connections others don't, Abigail, he told me after I presented a case study solution that integrated technology, design psychology, and business metrics. That's rare and valuable. Under his guidance, I began to focus my interest on the hospitality industry, specifically the supply chains that kept luxury hotels and resorts functioning. My final thesis analyzed inefficiencies in traditional hospitality supply models and proposed innovative solutions that combine technology, sustainability, and premium customer experience. Professor Harrison introduced me to industry contacts, including Sophia Mendez, a rising executive at Atlantic Hospitality Group. She offered me an internship that summer, not because of my family name, but because of my ideas. Your perspective is fresh, Sophia told me. This industry needs more design thinking and fewer cookie-cutter approaches. While I was developing my professional identity away from my family's shadow, Kate's life continued along its prescribed path. She graduated summa cum laude and immediately took a director position at Williams Property Development. At 24, she became engaged to Thomas Blackwell, whose family owned a chain of luxury car dealerships along the East Coast. He's perfect for Katherine, my mother gushed during one of our rare phone calls. They're considering a June wedding at the Westbrook Country Club. 800 guests. My graduation approached with considerably less fanfare. My parents attended the ceremony, arriving just before it began and leaving immediately after to attend a charity gala that Kate had helped organize. My online business had grown to require part-time staff, and I had 3 job offers from my internship connections, but these achievements warranted only passing acknowledgement. It's good you found something, Abigail, my father said as they prepared to leave. Katherine tells us the market is getting competitive. Kate's graduation gift had been a Mercedes convertible and a director position in the family business. Mine was a department store gift card and a pat on the shoulder. We know you'll find your way, my mother said, her tone suggesting she wasn't entirely convinced. As they drove away, I stood holding my business degree with honors and design distinction, watching as they returned to the world where Kate reigned supreme. But I wasn't bitter, I was determined. They had provided me with an education, however reluctantly, and I had built something they couldn't take credit for. That evening, I accepted Sophia Mendez's offer to join Atlantic Hospitality Group's procurement division, a decision that would set me on a collision course with my sister that neither of us could have anticipated. The irresponsible daughter was about to get a masterclass in responsibility, accountability, and the true meaning of family legacy. 3 years after graduation, our family dynamic shifted dramatically when my father suffered a minor heart attack. Though he recovered fully, the event triggered serious conversations about succession planning and inheritance. I had just been promoted to senior procurement specialist at Atlantic Hospitality Group and was considering a promising opportunity with Coastal Hospitality Suppliers, one of the industry's most innovative companies. My online business had expanded to include custom corporate gifts and had been featured in several business publications. When my mother called requesting my presence at a family meeting, I was surprised. I had become accustomed to hearing family news secondhand, usually after decisions had already been made. Your father wants to discuss the future, she said. Saturday at 3. Please don't be late. I arrived at the family home 10 minutes early to find Kate and Thomas already seated in the living room, looking comfortable and expectant. My father sat in his favorite leather chair, a folder of documents on the side table. My mother perched beside him, her perfect posture a physical manifestation of the family's rigid expectations. Abigail, good, you're here. My father began without preamble. As you know, my recent health scare has prompted me to consider the future of our family assets. Eleanor and I have decided it's time to begin transitioning control to the next generation. I nodded, unsure what role I was expected to play in this transition. Over the years, I had built a life independent of family resources, assuming I would never be a significant part of the Williams legacy. Katherine has proven herself more than capable of taking over Williams' property development, he continued. Her leadership of the Westbrook Heights and Lakeside Commons projects has been exemplary. The board unanimously supports her appointment as CEO when I step down next year. Kate's smile was a study in practiced humility. I've learned from the best, Daddy. Furthermore, my father continued, your mother and I have restructured our estate plan. The bulk of our personal assets will be placed in a family trust, with Katherine as primary trustee. This includes the main residence, the vacation properties in Nantucket and Aspen, and our investment portfolio. The room seemed to tilt slightly as the implications became clear. This wasn't just about the business. It was about everything, the entire family legacy being passed almost exclusively to Kate. Of course, my father added, glancing briefly in my direction. Abigail will receive grandmother's jewelry collection and a modest trust fund to provide some security. And the Elizabeth Street apartment, my mother added, as if this were a generous afterthought. The Elizabeth Street apartment was a small one-bedroom they had purchased as an investment 15 years ago. It had been rented to a series of tenants and needed significant renovation. We've given this considerable thought, my father said, his tone suggesting the matter was settled. Katherine has demonstrated the responsibility and business acumen needed to manage these assets appropriately. And I haven't. The question left my lips before I could reconsider. An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Kate examined her manicure while Thomas suddenly found the bookshelf fascinating. Abigail, my mother began, her voice taking on the placating tone she used when discussing unpleasant realities. You've always had different priorities. Your creative ventures are charming, but they hardly demonstrate the kind of financial responsibility required to manage a significant estate. Different priorities? I repeated. I've built a successful business from nothing. I'm respected in my industry. How does that demonstrate irresponsibility? My father sighed. Your online crafting business and your job arranging furniture for hotels are nice hobbies, Abigail. But they're not comparable to managing a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio. Procurement and supply chain management for luxury properties isn't arranging furniture, I corrected, feeling my cheeks flush. And my crafting business reported six-figure revenue last year. 6 figures is certainly adequate, my father conceded with a dismissive wave. But Katherine is overseeing projects with 8-figure budgets. The scale is simply different. Because you gave her those opportunities, I pointed out. She started at the top because of your connections. Kate finally spoke up. I've worked hard for my position, Abby. Not everyone wants the pressure and responsibility I've taken on. I never had the chance to refuse it, I replied. It was never offered. My father cleared his throat. The decision has been made, Abigail. The documents are being finalized this week. Katherine has proven herself responsible with money and business matters. You've always been more free-spirited. The familiar refrain, Katherine responsible, Abigail irresponsible, echoed in the subtext of every word. Years of being underestimated crystallized in that moment, hardening my resolve. I see, I said quietly. Thank you for being so clear about where I stand. As the meeting concluded, the assets being distributed to Kate were enumerated in greater detail. The family business, valued at approximately $50 million. The main residence in Westbrook, for $5 million. Vacation properties in Nantucket and Aspen, $3 million and $5 million respectively. An investment portfolio worth approximately $12 million. Control of the family trust, $15 million. Various vehicles, boats and artwork totaling roughly $2 million. My inheritance, grandmother's jewelry, appraised at $120,000, a trust fund of $500,000 with restrictive terms, and the Elizabeth Street apartment, worth about $450,000, but requiring at least $100,000 in renovations. The disparity was staggering, roughly $90 million versus barely $1 million. But more painful than the financial inequity was the clear message it sent. After 30 years, they still saw me as the irresponsible daughter, unworthy of the family legacy. As I prepared to leave, Kate caught me at the door. "Don't take it personally, Abby," she said, her hand on my arm. "We all have different strengths. Mine just happened to align with what the family needs right now." I looked at my sister, perfect Katherine with her perfect life falling perfectly into place, and realized she genuinely believed she deserved everything she had been given. In her mind, she had earned it all through her responsibility and dedication, never recognizing the advantages she had received from day one. "Congratulations, Kate," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I hope you appreciate what you've been given." As I drove away from the family estate that day, I made another promise to myself. I wouldn't fight for scraps from the family table. I wouldn't beg for recognition or validation. I would build something so undeniably successful that they would be forced to see me clearly for the first time. The inheritance decision wasn't just about money. It was about worth, how they valued me as a person, as a daughter, as a businesswoman. And if they couldn't see my worth, I would create a new measurement system altogether. Their judgment had been rendered, but the game wasn't over. It was just beginning. 3 years passed after the inheritance decision. I threw myself into my career with the focused determination of someone with everything to prove and nothing to lose. The modest trust fund remained untouched, a safety net I refused to rely on. Instead, I lived frugally, investing every spare dollar into my education and opportunities. At Atlantic Hospitality Group, I quickly earned a reputation for innovative thinking and meticulous attention to detail. My unique combination of business analytics and design perspective allowed me to identify inefficiencies others missed and create solutions that improved both aesthetics and economics. "You see systems differently," my director commented during my performance review. "Where others see separate departments, you see interconnected ecosystems." 6 months after the inheritance meeting, I accepted a position with Coastal Hospitality Suppliers, a mid-sized company with significant growth potential. They were seeking someone to revitalize their luxury property division, and my experience made me an ideal candidate. "We need fresh thinking," Marcus Harrington, the CEO, told me during my interview. "The hospitality supply industry is stuck in outdated models. We want to change that." I started as Director of Luxury Procurement, overseeing a team of 12 and managing relationships with high-end hotels and resorts. The learning curve was steep, but I immersed myself completely, working 14-hour days and weekends to master every aspect of the business. "You don't need to prove yourself by working yourself to death," Marcus cautioned after finding me at the office on a Sunday afternoon. "I'm not proving myself to anyone but me," I replied, though we both knew that wasn't entirely true. Within a year, I had restructured the department, implemented new technology platforms, and secured exclusive contracts with artisanal suppliers that elevated our offerings above competitors. Our division's revenue increased by 32% while costs decreased by 18%. During this time, I maintained minimal contact with my family. Holiday gatherings were polite but distant. Kate continued her ascension at Williams Property Development, becoming CEO as planned when our father stepped into an advisory role. She and Thomas married in the lavish ceremony my mother had envisioned, with 800 guests witnessing their union at the Westbrook Country Club. I attended solo, wearing a designer dress I had purchased with my own money, a small but significant declaration of independence. When relatives asked about my work, their eyes glazed over as I explained supply chain logistics and procurement strategies. To them, I was still just Abby with her quirky career, not quite measuring up to Kate's conventional success. My professional momentum continued to build. I was promoted to Vice President of Strategic Development at Coastal, with broader authority and a substantial salary increase. But the real opportunity emerged during a routine financial review when I discovered the company was seeking additional investors to fund an expansion. "We need capital to acquire Meridian supplies," Marcus explained when I inquired. "They have market share and manufacturing capabilities we want, but the asking price is steep." The acquisition made perfect sense from a business perspective. Meridian's product line complemented ours without significant overlap, and their manufacturing facilities would reduce our production costs substantially. The combined entity would become one of the top 3 suppliers in the luxury hospitality market. I spent 2 weeks analyzing the opportunity, reviewing financial statements, market projections, and integration scenarios. The potential return was substantial, but so was the risk. This wasn't a casual investment. It would require everything I had saved plus leveraging my trust fund as collateral. The irony wasn't lost on me, using the Irresponsible Daughters Trust Fund to make a major business investment. After careful consideration, I scheduled a meeting with Marcus. "I'd like to invest personally," I stated, sliding my proposal across his desk. "I can contribute $2 million toward the acquisition." His eyebrows rose in surprise. "That's a significant personal investment, Abigail." "I believe in what we're building," I replied simply. "Your family must be very supportive," he commented. I smiled thinly. "They don't know, and I'd prefer to keep it that way for now." Marcus introduced me to the other investors, a diverse group of industry veterans and venture capitalists who had recognized Coastal's potential. I was the youngest by at least a decade and the only woman, but my detailed knowledge of the company's operations quickly earned their respect. "She knows this business inside out," Marcus told them. "Abigail sees opportunities the rest of us miss." The Meridian acquisition proceeded smoothly under my oversight. I led the integration team, working closely with department heads to merge operations without disrupting client relationships. My design background proved unexpectedly valuable as we consolidated product lines and rebranded the combined entity. By the end of the second year, our gamble had paid off. Coastal Hospitality Suppliers had transformed from a mid-sized regional player to a national powerhouse with international clients. My initial investment had nearly doubled in value on paper, and my reputation in the industry had solidified. I purchased a comfortable apartment in Boston's Back Bay neighborhood, not as grand as Kate's Westbrook mansion. But mine was earned entirely through my own efforts. I expanded my wardrobe with carefully selected designer pieces, not to flaunt wealth, but to project the confidence necessary in business settings. When the industry's leading publication featured me in their 40 Under 40 list, describing me as a visionary reshaping luxury hospitality supply chains, I sent copies to my parents without comment. Their response was a brief congratulatory email, the subtext clear: "This was nice, but not quite as impressive as Kate's recent development project." I had learned to find validation elsewhere. My network of industry colleagues, mentors, and team members provided the recognition my family withheld. Marcus became both a business partner and friend, respecting my judgment and supporting my increasingly ambitious strategies. "You've transformed this company," he told me during a celebration of our 3rd consecutive quarter exceeding projections. "I knew you had potential, but you've exceeded every expectation." His words meant more than any inheritance ever could. I had built something valuable through my own vision and effort, proof that responsibility came in forms my parents had never recognized. What they had dismissed as irresponsibility was actually a different kind of responsibility, to my own values, to innovation, to creating new possibilities rather than preserving old ones. In their narrow definition, only Kate's conventional path qualified as responsible. In reality, my path required even greater responsibility, the courage to build without a safety net, to innovate without a blueprint, to succeed without a guaranteed outcome. As Coastal prepared to announce another expansion, I received an unexpected notification from our sales department. A major new client had selected us as their primary supplier for a luxury oceanfront resort development in Malibu. The contract value exceeded anything we had secured previously, a game-changing opportunity. When I opened the file to review the client details, a familiar name leapt from the page. Williams Property Development CEO, Katherine Williams Blackwell. After years of parallel paths, my sister and I were about to converge in a way neither of us could have anticipated. The responsibility she thought I lacked was about to become very, very relevant to her future. The Williams Oceanside Resort represented Kate's first major diversification of our family business. For decades, Williams Property Development had focused exclusively on residential and commercial real estate development in the Northeast. The luxury resort in Malibu marked an ambitious expansion both geographically and conceptually. I learned the details through our company's contract proposal. Kate had acquired a stunning oceanfront property, 20 acres of prime California coastline, and planned to create an ultra-luxury resort targeting the entertainment industry and tech billionaires. The design called for 65 exclusive villas, 3 restaurants helmed by celebrity chefs, a world-class spa, and amenities that redefined opulence. The budget was eye-watering. $175 million for development, with projected annual revenue of $60 million once fully operational. The grand opening was scheduled for exactly 10 months from now, with a star-studded event planned to generate maximum publicity. For coastal hospitality suppliers, this represented our largest single contract to date. We would provide everything from custom furniture to bathroom fixtures, kitchen equipment to linens, all meeting exacting specifications for luxury and exclusivity. The contract value exceeded $30 million, a transformative opportunity for our company. I sat in my office late into the evening, reviewing the proposal details and contemplating the strange twist of fate. My sister, who had received everything, now depended on the company I had helped build, the company deemed worthy of my investment when I had been deemed unworthy of my inheritance. The irony was almost too perfect. Marcus knocked on my door, interrupting my thoughts. Burning the midnight oil again? The Williams contract has everyone excited. It's a significant opportunity, I agreed, careful to keep my tone neutral. He studied me for a moment. Williams Property Development, any relation? I had never discussed my family background in detail at work, preferring to be judged on my own merits rather than my connections. But the time for secrets had passed. Katherine Williams Blackwell is my sister, I admitted. His eyebrows shot up in surprise. Your sister? Does she know you're with Coastal? No, I replied. We're not particularly close, and I've never discussed my investment in the company with my family. Marcus leaned against the doorframe, processing this information. This is unexpected. Should we be concerned about a conflict of interest? Not at all, I assured him. I can recuse myself from direct negotiations if necessary, but I see no reason why our personal connection should impact a business relationship. The proposal stands on its merits. Agreed. He nodded. But it's an interesting coincidence. Life is full of them, I said with a small smile. The following week, Kate's project team scheduled a preliminary meeting with our sales department. Curiosity got the better of me, and I arranged to observe discreetly from our conference room's adjoining observation area, used for training purposes. Kate arrived with an entourage of assistants and consultants, her designer suit and confident stride immediately commanding attention. She had perfected our father's authoritative presence while adding her own polished charm. We've reviewed several suppliers, she began, and Coastal's reputation for quality and exclusivity aligns with our vision for the Williams Oceanside Resort. This property will redefine luxury on the West Coast, and every element must be perfect. Our sales team presented our capabilities professionally, highlighting our experience with similar high-end properties. Kate nodded approvingly but interrupted frequently with specific demands. "These fixtures are nice, but we need something truly unique," she insisted at one point. "Our clients expect the extraordinary. They've experienced luxury worldwide. We need to surprise them." I noticed her team exchanging glances as she continued to elevate requirements beyond what had been specified in the initial brief. The budget implications were significant, but no one dared contradict her. When our director mentioned timeline constraints for custom items, Kate waved away the concern. "We have hard deadlines. The grand opening cannot be delayed. Make it happen. Cost is secondary to maintaining our schedule and quality standards." Her dismissive tone toward our team members triggered a familiar feeling, the same disregard I had experienced throughout our childhood when my needs were deemed less important than hers. After the meeting, I reviewed the meeting notes with our project manager, Lisa Chen. "She's demanding," Lisa commented diplomatically. "Some of these requirements will be challenging within their timeframe." "What's your assessment of the project overall?" I asked. Lisa hesitated. "Honestly, it seems overextended. They're pushing boundaries on budget, timeline, and scope simultaneously. That's always risky." Her observation aligned with my own concerns. As I delved deeper into the project specifics, I discovered Kate had leveraged significant family assets to fund this development. The Williams Oceanside Resort wasn't just an expansion, it was a high-stakes gamble with our family legacy. Over the following weeks, I maintained my professional distance while monitoring the project's progress. Our team worked diligently to meet Kate's exacting standards, often redesigning items multiple times to satisfy her vision of perfection. During one video conference that I observed, Kate berated our design team for presenting options she deemed ordinary. "My family name is on this property," she snapped. "Williams means excellence. These designs could be in any decent hotel. I need exceptional." The irony struck me again. The Williams name she invoked so proudly was one she believed I didn't deserve to represent in business matters. My concerns deepened when our quality control team flagged potential safety issues with some of Kate's design modifications. She had requested changes to balcony railings that would compromise structural integrity for aesthetic purposes. "The glass panels need to be seamless," her email insisted. "I don't care about the engineering challenges. Find a solution that maintains our design vision." Our engineering team developed a compromise that addressed safety concerns while approximating her aesthetic goals, but her response was curt. "This isn't what I asked for." The original design was approved. "Proceed as directed." I called an emergency meeting with our legal and safety teams. "We cannot supply products that don't meet safety standards," I stated firmly, regardless of the client's insistence. Our legal counsel nodded in agreement. "We'll prepare documentation outlining our liability concerns and the required modifications." I drafted a formal company response detailing our safety concerns and proposed alternatives, careful to remove myself from direct communication. The letter went out under Marcus's signature as CEO. Kate's response arrived the next day, not to Marcus, but to our sales director. "While we appreciate Coastal's concerns," she wrote, "we have our own engineering team that has approved these designs. If Coastal is unable to execute our vision exactly as specified, we'll need to explore other supplier options." My team has relationships with several international firms eager for this opportunity. The threat was clear, as was the subtext. Kate was accustomed to getting her way and would leverage any connection to achieve it. That evening, I received a disturbing email that had been accidentally copied to several executives, including myself. It was from Kate to her project manager. "These suppliers are becoming difficult. Bean counters who don't understand luxury and vision. My irresponsible sister would never understand business at this level. This is why family trusted me with the legacy, not her. Find leverage to get them in line or find alternatives." The Williams Oceanside Resort launches as planned, no compromises. Her words struck like a physical blow, not because they were surprising, but because they confirmed what I had always known. In Kate's mind, I remained the irresponsible little sister, incapable of understanding real business. The fact that I was a significant stakeholder in the very company she was dismissing as bean counters would have been laughable if it weren't so infuriating. I forwarded the email to Marcus with a brief note, "We need to talk." In his office the next morning, I laid out the situation completely. Katherine doesn't just want premium products. She's cutting corners on safety to maintain aesthetic perfection, I explained. And she's leveraged significant family assets on this project's success. Marcus leaned back in his chair. Considering the implications. What are you thinking, Abigail? I'm thinking it's time to reevaluate our relationship with this client, I replied calmly. On strictly business grounds. Your personal connection complicates things, he pointed out. My personal connection is precisely why I can see this clearly, I countered. I know her patterns. She's overextended and using intimidation to force compliance. That creates unacceptable risk for Coastal. After extensive discussion with our executive team and legal counsel, we made a decision that would alter the trajectory of both Coastal hospitality suppliers and the Williams Oceanside Resort. We would exercise our contractual right to withdraw from unsafe modifications while preparing contingency plans for potential contract termination. The stage was set for a confrontation that had been brewing for 30 years: responsibility versus recklessness, substance versus appearance, earned success versus inherited advantage. In 2 weeks, Kate would host an exclusive preview event for investors and media at the partially completed resort. And I had just received my invitation. The concerns about Kate's approach to the resort development deepened as our quality assurance team conducted standard site inspections. Beyond the balcony railing modifications, they identified several other areas where safety had been compromised for aesthetics or cost savings. The custom chandelier installation in the main pavilion lacked adequate structural support. Electrical systems for the infinity pools didn't include required redundant safety features. Kitchen ventila. Tie-in systems in the restaurants had been downsized to preserve ceiling aesthetics. Fire suppression systems in the villas had been modified to be less visible. Each issue independently posed moderate risk. Collectively, they represented a pattern of dangerous corner cutting. Our team compiled a comprehensive report documenting all concerns with supporting evidence and regulatory references. This goes beyond design preferences, our head of quality assurance explained. These modifications violate building codes and industry safety standards. I reviewed the report thoroughly, separating my personal feelings from professional judgment. This wasn't about my history with Kate. It was about Coastal's integrity and liability. We had a responsibility to our company, our employees, and ultimately to the future guests who would trust this property with their safety. Following proper protocols, I first attempted to address these concerns through official channels. I drafted a formal letter outlining the issues, proposing compliant alternatives, and requesting an urgent meeting with the project management team. The letter was sent from Coastal's compliance department with copies to all relevant stakeholders. Kate's response came not as a formal reply, but as a terse email to our sales director. These concerns are excessive and unnecessary. My engineers have approved all modifications. Coastal was selected for execution, not consultation on our design decisions. Please proceed as directed or we'll be forced to reconsider our partnership. Her dismissiveness wasn't surprising, but it was disappointing. I requested a conference call with Kate's project team, excluding her to allow for a more candid discussion. During the call, her chief engineer admitted the concerns were valid, but indicated they were under tremendous pressure to maintain the accelerated timeline and budget constraints. Mrs. Williams-Blackwell has made it clear that the grand opening date cannot move, he explained uncomfortably. We're trying to balance competing priorities. Safety can't be a competing priority. I replied, "It's a prerequisite." After the call, I consulted with Marcus and our executive team. The consensus was clear: we could not compromise on safety standards, regardless of the contract value. We prepared a formal notice requiring compliance with safety standards as a condition of continuing our relationship. Before sending it, I received an email that crystallized my decision. It was an internal communication from Kate to her executive team that had been accidentally forwarded to one of our project managers. "The supply issues are becoming tiresome. These people don't understand the vision or the stakes. My family built a real estate empire by taking calculated risks, not by cowering to every minor regulation. My sister always was afraid to take necessary risks, precisely why I'm running a company and she's probably still selling arts and crafts online. Handle coastal however necessary, but the timeline stands. I've invited the industry's top influencers and publications to the preview event, and everything must be perfect." Her contempt was palpable and clarifying. This wasn't just about business anymore, it was about fundamental values. Kate was willing to compromise safety for appearance, to risk lives for acclaim. That wasn't calculated risk, it was reckless endangerment. I called an emergency board meeting and presented all the evidence, including Kate's emails. "We have 3 options," I explained. "Continue with modified terms requiring safety compliance, withdraw from safety-compromised elements while supplying the rest, or terminate the contract entirely." The discussion was thorough and thoughtful. While the contract value was significant, the liability and reputational risks of continuing under current conditions were greater. More importantly, it violated our company's core values. "If we compromise here, where do we stop?" I asked. "What defines us if not our commitment to doing things right?" The board voted unanimously to exercise our contractual right to withdraw from the project unless all safety standards were met. We had carefully structured our agreement with clauses that protected us in precisely these circumstances. I drafted the formal notice myself, detailing each safety concern with supporting documentation and regulatory references. The letter specified a 10-day period for remediation plans before we would begin withdrawing services. Kate's response was immediate and furious. She called Marcus directly, demanding my termination. "Whoever prepared this ridiculous document should be fired," she fumed, unaware of my involvement. "These concerns are obstructionist and will delay our opening. We have permits and approvals from relevant authorities. These concerns come directly from our executive team and board." Marcus replied calmly. "We stand behind them unanimously." When the 10-day period elapsed without adequate remediation plans, we initiated the contract withdrawal process. Rather than a complete termination, we structured a phased approach. We would fulfill orders for standard items while withdrawing from customized elements that compromised safety. This strategic approach minimized our contractual exposure while maintaining our ethical stance. It also created a logistical nightmare for Kate's team, who would need to source critical custom elements with just weeks before the preview event. Throughout this process, Kate remained unaware of my role at Coastal or my investment in the company. She knew only that the supplier she had counted on was suddenly enforcing safety standards she had hoped to circumvent. The timing couldn't have been worse for her. Construction was entering the final phase, with finishing touches being applied throughout the property. The preview event, scheduled for exactly 2 weeks from our withdrawal notice, was intended to generate buzz and secure bookings ahead of the official opening. Kate's team scrambled to find alternative suppliers, but our position in the luxury hospitality supply market made immediate replacement nearly impossible. Few companies could match our quality, and none could deliver custom elements within her compressed timeline. 3 days before the preview event, I received a personal invitation from Kate. The formal card requested, "The pleasure of your company at an exclusive first look at the Williams Oceanside Resort." A handwritten note added, "Family should share in achievements." Perhaps you'll finally understand what real business success looks like. K. The invitation represented a crucial decision point. Attending would inevitably lead to confrontation. Kate would discover my connection to Coastal and my role in the supply challenges she was facing. But avoiding the event meant missing the opportunity to finally address the family dynamics that had shaped both our lives. After careful consideration, I decided to attend. This wasn't about revenge or schadenfreude, it was about accountability and truth. Kate needed to understand that actions have consequences. That real responsibility means prioritizing safety over appearances, and that success built on shortcuts inevitably collapses. I selected my outfit carefully, a designer suit that projected confidence without ostentation, accessorized with our grandmother's sapphire pendant. The jewelry represented the only inheritance Kate had deemed me worthy of receiving. Wearing it felt symbolically appropriate. As I prepared for the confrontation ahead, I reflected on our parallel journeys. Kate had started with every advantage: family support, financial backing, established connections, and had still resorted to dangerous shortcuts. I had built something from scratch, creating success through innovation and integrity rather than inheritance and compromise. The irresponsible sister had created a business that prioritized safety and quality, while the responsible one was willing to endanger others to maintain appearances. The irony wasn't lost on me, but neither was the tragedy. Our parents' narrow definition of responsibility had ultimately encouraged the very recklessness they feared. The Williams Oceanside Resort awaited, half-finished and vulnerable, its imperfections hidden beneath hastily applied veneer. In many ways, it was the perfect metaphor for Kate's understanding of success, impressive at first glance, but fundamentally unsound. I confirmed my attendance with a brief response. I look forward to seeing your achievement. Family should indeed share in important moments. Abigail. What Kate didn't realize was that her moment of triumph was about to become a lesson in true responsibility, one that would redefine our family dynamic forever. The evening of the preview event arrived with perfect California weather, clear skies, gentle breeze, spectacular sunset. As I drove along the coastal highway toward the Williams Oceanside Resort, I could see the property illuminated against the darkening sky, its architecture undeniably impressive despite my concerns about what lay beneath the surface. Valets in crisp uniforms greeted arriving guests, while photographers captured the parade of celebrities, investors, and media personalities walking the blue carpet that led to the main pavilion. A string quartet played near the entrance, and servers circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. At first glance, everything appeared flawless, exactly the image of perfection Kate had insisted upon. But as someone intimately familiar with luxury property development, I noticed the subtle signs of hasty completion: paint with insufficient curing time, temporary fixtures disguised as permanent ones, landscaping installed hours rather than weeks before. I accepted a glass of champagne and moved through the crowd, observing the dynamics. Kate stood near the center of the main pavilion, resplendent in a designer gown. Thomas at her side as they greeted influential guests. Her smile never wavered, though I detected tension in her posture. For nearly an hour, I circulated without approaching her, listening to conversations and noting reactions. Most guests seemed appropriately impressed, though several industry insiders exchanged knowing glances at certain unfinished elements cleverly disguised as design choices. The custom lighting installation will be completed next week, I overheard a staff member explaining to a curious guest. The designer's vision required specialized craftsmanship that couldn't be rushed. In the West Wing, where the signature restaurant was located, a section had been cordoned off with decorative screens. Chef Marconi is creating a special surprise element there, a host explained smoothly when questioned. In reality, I suspected the area remained unfinished due to our withdrawal from the custom kitchen installations. Similar improvisations appeared throughout the property, areas strategically closed for enhancement, features described as arriving soon. Temporary solutions presented as exclusive design elements. Kate's team had worked miracles to create the illusion of completion, but the preview revealed only a fraction of the planned amenities. I was examining a particularly clever disguise of unfinished balcony railings when I felt a presence beside me. Abigail. You came. Kate's voice carried practiced warmth, but her eyes revealed surprise and wariness. I wouldn't miss my sister's big moment, I replied, turning to face her. Congratulations. It's impressive. Thank you. She gestured expansively. This represents the future of Williams' property development. We're already fielding inquiries for similar properties in Hawaii and the Mediterranean. Ambitious, I commented, though I noticed some elements aren't quite finished. Her smile tightened almost imperceptibly. Minor details. Everything essential is in place. We've had some supplier challenges, but nothing we couldn't overcome. Supplier challenges can be difficult, I agreed mildly, especially when safety concerns arise. Kate's eyes narrowed slightly. What do you know about that? Before I could respond, a commotion near the infinity pool drew attention. A section of temporary fencing had collapsed, sending decorative lighting into the water and creating a small electrical incident. Staff rushed to disconnect power and address the situation while attempting to maintain composure. Perhaps we should speak privately, I suggested as Kate's expression darkened. She nodded curtly and led me to a secluded terrace overlooking the ocean. When we were alone, her diplomatic veneer evaporated. What are you doing here, Abby? Really? Did you come to gloat over the challenges we've faced? Because despite some minor setbacks, this launch is a triumph. I'm not here to gloat, I assured her. But I am concerned about the corners being cut. Those aren't minor setbacks, Kate. They're serious safety issues. Don't pretend to understand the complexities of this development, she snapped. This is a sophisticated project with unique challenges. Every luxury property makes accommodations to achieve exceptional results. Accommodations shouldn't include compromising guest safety, I countered. The balcony railings, electrical systems, fire suppression modifications, those aren't aesthetic choices. They're critical safety elements. Kate's expression shifted from irritation to suspicion. How do you know those specific details? That information isn't public. The moment had arrived. I took a deep breath before responding. I know because I'm the Vice President of Strategic Development at Coastal Hospitality Suppliers. I was directly involved in our decision to withdraw from compromised elements of your project. The color drained from Kate's face as she processed this revelation. You're with Coastal? I joined them 4 years ago. I've helped build their luxury division and invested personally in the company. I'm also on the board. You deliberately sabotaged my project? Her voice rose dangerously. You pulled supplies because of some petty sibling rivalry. No, Kate. We withdrew because your modifications violated safety standards and our company values. My connection to you wasn't a factor in the decision. It was unanimous among leadership based on documented concerns. I don't believe you, she hissed. You've always been jealous of my success. You couldn't stand to see me expand the family business you weren't deemed responsible enough to handle. This isn't about jealousy, I replied evenly. It's about actual responsibility, prioritizing people's safety over appearances. The modifications you demanded created genuine dangers for your future guests. We have approvals and permits, based on original plans, not your modifications, I interrupted. The documentation proves it, Kate. The chandeliers lack proper support. The electrical systems for the pools are compromised. The fire suppression systems in the villas don't meet code requirements. Her expression wavered between fury and fear as the implications settled in. The preview event was already revealing cracks in her perfect facade, and the grand opening loomed just weeks away. You've put me in an impossible position, she said finally. What do you want? Money? A share in the resort? Is this extortion? Her assumption that my motives must be mercenary stung. But didn't surprise me. Kate had always navigated the world through transaction and advantage. I don't want your money, Kate. I want accountability. The resort needs to be brought up to safety standards before it opens to the public. And yes, I want recognition. Not just from you, but from our family. Recognition that responsibility comes in different forms, and that mine is every bit as valid as yours. Kate paced the terrace, calculating options. The modifications would delay opening by months. The financial implications would be devastating. More devastating than a lawsuit when someone gets hurt? Than criminal negligence charges if the worst happens? Than the complete destruction of the Williams' reputation. She flinched at this last point. For all her flaws, Kate did care about the family legacy. I can help, I offered, softening my tone. Coastal can prioritize safe alternatives that preserve most of your aesthetic vision. We can accelerate production on critical elements. But the standards can't be compromised. Why would you help after pulling out? Because you're my sister. Because despite everything, I don't want to see you fail. I just want you to succeed the right way. We talked for over an hour on that terrace, moving from antagonism to negotiation to something approaching mutual understanding. Kate finally acknowledged the safety concerns were legitimate. While I recognized the tremendous pressure she faced to make the resort exceptional. By evening's end, we had outlined a plan. The preview would be presented as exactly what it was, a preview of a work in progress. The grand opening would be delayed by 2 months to implement proper safety measures. Coastal would return as the primary supplier with accelerated timelines for critical elements. Kate would publicly acknowledge the importance of partnering with industry leaders who prioritize both luxury and safety. There's one more thing, I added as our discussion concluded. The family assets need to be redistributed more equitably. I'm not asking for control of the business, but the trust should reflect that both daughters have demonstrated business acumen and responsibility. Kate hesitated before responding. That's not entirely my decision. Then we'll discuss it with Mom and Dad together. As equals. The following weeks brought significant changes, both to the Williams Oceanside Resort and to our family dynamic. Kate announced the opening delay at the end of the preview event, framing it as a commitment to uncompromising excellence and safety, a face-saving move that nevertheless acknowledged the underlying issues. Our parents were initially stunned to learn of my position at Coastal and my role in the supply challenges. Their reaction shifted from disbelief to grudging respect as they reviewed the documentation of safety concerns and witnessed the professional resolution Kate and I had negotiated. You've built something significant, my father acknowledged during a family dinner a month after the preview. Different from our traditional business, but impressive in its own right. We may have misjudged your approach, my mother added carefully. Your creativity seems to have translated well to business innovation. The family trust was restructured to provide more equitable distribution, with Kate retaining control of Williams' property development while I received proper recognition through expanded assets and board representation. The change wasn't just financial. It represented acknowledgement of my worth within the family structure. The Williams Oceanside Resort eventually opened, 2 months behind schedule, but with all safety issues properly addressed. The property has since become one of the most successful in the Williams portfolio, known for both its luxury and its impeccable attention to detail and guest safety. Kate and I will never be best friends, but we've developed a more respectful relationship based on mutual recognition of our different but complementary strengths. She's learned that cutting corners ultimately costs more than doing things right the first time, while I've gained confidence in asserting my place within the family legacy. The irresponsible daughter turned out to understand responsibility in its deepest sense, not just following rules or managing money, but standing firm on principles even when it's difficult. True responsibility sometimes means making the hard choice rather than the expedient one, prioritizing what's right over what's convenient or impressive. As for me, I continue to build my career and investments based on innovation balanced with integrity. My path didn't follow the conventional route my parents envisioned, but it led to success they finally recognize and respect. Sometimes the most responsible choice is charting your own course rather than following someone else's map. What about you? Have you ever been underestimated by family or labeled unfairly? How did you prove your worth on your own terms? Share your story in the comments below. And if this journey of standing up for yourself against family judgment resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that success comes in many forms. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, the best revenge isn't getting even, it's living well and true to your values.